Okay, we're going to have a really quick round of intros, maybe personal journey, very, very short, and what you're doing today, kids you have, etc.
Hi, I'm Crystal. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. I'm a mom of 3 kids, aged 12, 10, and 8. Another side of me, I'm working in banking as executive director in DBS for documentary trade product management. So, but today my identity is a mom, so I hope to learn from you about parenting, and especially education is the sparkle is in our family. So myself and my husband has different background. I study locally and he studied overseas since boarding school. So we always debate how should we position our kids for studying. So this is the sparkle for ourselves.
My name is Kashmir Daryanani. I was born and raised on a small island in the Caribbean and then educated in the US before I moved to Hong Kong about 12 years ago. I've spent the past 15 years working in the asset management industry where we encourage people to think about investing and investing for the moments that matter to you. And I think children's education is a really important one. I have 2 young kids myself, a 3.5 and a 1.5-year-old. So this topic is something I feel very passionate about as I think about how I want, them to be raised in the future and the type of education that they will need to have today for those goals. And so yeah, I'm very delighted to be here.
My name is Agnes Kong. I was born and raised in Hong Kong, and then I studied in the US for college and business school. First 10 years of my career was in finance, investment banking, and then in 2009 I decided to make a pretty drastic change, and I went into education actually. And back then I started a learning institution called the Open Classroom, and with a mission actually very similar to Big Bang, which is to teach kids like writing and presentation, but through some immersive learning experiences and meeting people from different walks of life. Since then, I've been doing a lot of different education ventures, including setting up a kindergarten and also now advising kids who are interested in applying to study overseas for boarding school or college. I am a mother of 2, a 7-year-old who's in a local school grade 1, and then a 3-year-old who's studying at pre-nursery at the school that I helped set up. So very glad to be here, and I also want to learn actually a lot more about how to invest for my kids' future.
Thank you. Before I start with the question, I realized I haven't really introduced my personal journey in education. So I was born and raised in Hong Kong. For my first 17 years of life, I go to all-girls school. So I went to a local school here in Hong Kong, which everyone calls it a nunnery. And then yeah, so sad. And then I went to boarding school in the UK, which is called Badminton School, which I spent 2 years there. Actually, a third of my year was from Hong Kong, so even though it was a boarding school, it's like full of Hong Kong students. And then, yes, then I studied engineering at University of Cambridge, and also I'm the only person here in the panel who doesn't have kids yet. But because of my job, I will surround myself with like teachers, principals, parents, students all the time. So we'd love to hear more from our panelists and today. Right. So our first question is, being a parent nowadays is not easy at all, especially in this age of technological change. So from a report from Goldman Sachs, they say that around 300 million jobs in the future are going to be replaced by AI, which is quite a scary stats that our students in the future might face. So in view of that, actually a lot of governments are promoting like STEAM education because it's important for kids to have growth mindset to face uncertainty, but also have the digital literacy to face this technological future. So this question is for all of our guests. Have you exposed your kids to any STEAM education resources? And how do you invest your time and your focus in your kids' education in this rapidly changing world full of uncertainty?
So I think for me, of course I open for my kids to choose. I try to give them more options to explore different things. My kids they have the privilege to join Big Bang courses before as well. We also join some other like STEM course outside. So what I observe is I hope this course could give them idea how to ask the right questions. Nowadays we have a lot of answers, a lot of information, but the challenge for them is how could I offer them a platform to ask the right question so they can get the right answer which they need. So I think critical thinking, logical thinking, creativity are quite essentials to defend themselves, to keep themselves away, to be replaced by AI.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think when you're in this sort of technology and AI-driven world, it's really important to go back to the basics and make sure that your children have the problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills. How do you ask the right questions? Make sure that they are able to, just filter through a lot of the noise and a lot of the content. My kids are very young, as I said, so as I begin the journey and I think about inculcating some of these skills with them, it's very much spending time asking them a lot of questions and asking them, to discover things without telling them the answer. So much of it is actually coaching and helping them to get there, but I think those skills will teach them how to think. Because there's so many people out there telling you what to think, and ChatGPT and every other tool can tell you exactly what to think, but how to think is actually our job as parents, I believe, to really make sure that they're getting equipped with the skills that they'll need for the jobs that may not exist today but will exist in the future.
Yeah, so I think, while AI might replace a lot of jobs, I think it's also going to create a lot of new jobs, which we won't know at this point. I remember when I was in college, like the only job that people always want to go into is finance or being a lawyer or consultant, and none of them would have heard about like a crypto trader or like a data scientist or AI engineer. So, the skill set is important, which Crystal has covered already. I think having the right mindset, which includes, like learning how to fail. I think one thing that Hong Kong parents, maybe they're very concerned about early on that their kids are successful because that will lead them to the, high grades and then get them to the right primary school and college or whatever. But I think if you can allow them to really explore and fail and learning how to stand up, like that resilience, and having that discipline and even having like empathy is, pretty important in this AI age because those are things that cannot be replaced by AI.
I'll just add a few things. I think kids need to learn how to connect with other people. It's really important in the AI age. I think that rote memorization is pretty much useless because I'm pretty sure the AI can figure that one out. I might be a bit more extreme on this, but I think, schools keep on debating, can students use AI, can they not use AI to do homework and everything else? I think that it is kind of just like a calculator. So we should assume that when our, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, our kids will be using AI quite a bit. So the STEAM framework, I understand that it used to be STEM, and A was added
Creativity.
for the arts, right? So it was STEM, and now it's STEAM. And it was funny because someone in the office thought the A stood for AI. When we were preparing for the session today, someone thought it stood for AI, and it was actually arts. So I think the arts are going to become more and more important in that framework as well. Although the critical thinking required from science and from like a Montessori sort of method is also really, really important so that kids are, genuinely curious rather than having stuff just stuffed into their brain all day to come out as sort of memorized stuff on the other side. Yeah.
Thank
It's very true about communication, right? Because the human touch of being able to persuade people, to influence people, is irreplaceable by robots and AI. So how to present your ideas, to convey people, to influence people, to lead people, I think this is a huge thing in terms of helping your kids to be successful in the future AI age. So is there any practical tips or things that you've been doing that you think it's working quite well in terms of preparing your kids, to be future ready in terms of, creative thinking, critical thinking, or even asking questions? So do you mind sharing some of the tips?
So I think on that, I really try to give them as much exposure at an early age, which is something that I struggle with because, like I said, I think in Hong Kong, kids are forced to specialize at a very early age. They don't really even have time to explore their interest, and then they already have to pick a sport or an instrument. And if you start in grade 4, grade 5, and you want to join a team, you're already behind because everyone else started when they're in kindergarten. So that's kind of sad to think about that. So what I try to do is really, when he's young, get him to try different things. So including, for example, I'm a big fan of the program that Big Bang offers because my son actually participated in the presentation, the STEM contest last year. It was a good experience for him because he gets to really stand out in front of these high-profile judges and present his idea, even though it might not be a very sophisticated idea. But all these things, I think, all these seeds were planted in him early on, and I'm just hoping that maybe I don't know what sticks with him, but I think something might stick, and all these could cultivate in the future into other passions that he would want to explore.
Yeah, I think one sort of practical example, at least with my kids when they're young, is teaching language. I think that's something that's also one of those skills that will be harder, quote unquote, to replace. I think it also teaches you sort of how to think and adapt to different cultures and think about different perspectives. So I mentioned I grew up in the Caribbean. I speak 5 different languages. Unfortunately, none of them are super used in Asia because most of them are European. But my kids are growing up in Asia. They're exposed to Mandarin and Cantonese, and I want them to be able to be sponges and soak up everything that they can in these languages, even if I can't be the one speaking to them. So I think it's just important that with language, that's a skill that can kind of foster empathy and help bridge a lot of cultural gaps, which technology will have a harder time, I think, trying to do. So that's sort of a practical one that I've been trying to foster from this young age with them, that I think is an important thing to do.
Okay, for me, I quote to example what I try to do differently to guide the kids. So my elder one, she's age 12, so she's learning piano as usual as other kids learning. Obviously, she's facing resistance. She don't want to practice. So I said, okay. I asked the piano teacher, teach her like Taylor Swift, and she could sing and play together. And I don't care about too much of the exam results until I keep her passionate on music. I'm not particular on piano, but I have to keep her passion at this moment. So for my boy, he's in local school, and Chinese is a big challenge for him. So I try to teach him. Recently, he learned a song Hong from school, and then I said, actually, Hong Yan, to guide you, yes, a song locally, and actually could help you to write. You could actually use a lot of lyrics to write, and then you save a lot of effort. And then he tried really some of the lyrics to help. So that's my way guiding them different ways to learn.
I mean, I think it's kind of hard, right? Because you want to be broad, but you also want them to sort of specialize and find things that they're really interested in. So something, okay, so this is controversial, but I think a philosophy that a child psychologist told me when we were having our first child was, ultimately your kids just want to be treated as adults because in their own minds they are very, very serious people. Which is true, right? So in their own minds they're the most serious, most important person in the world. So you cannot treat them as kids. So also when uncles and aunties and family members try and baby them, it's kind of annoying, right? Because actually the kids just want to be treated as serious human beings. Because in their minds they're as adult as you are, right? So I think that's important. I remember being forced to play instruments when I was growing up. And I personally don't know how much value is added. I played 3 instruments. I won a few viola competitions in Hong Kong. And I could not play the viola today. How useful was that for my development to spend all those hours doing that versus something else I actually was more drawn to and could have excelled in further. And I think I'm kind of moving on the spectrum. I'm moving more towards specialization in something they're really passionate about versus forcing them to do everything and then ferrying them around Hong Kong like crazy people after 3 o'clock until dinner time. But I don't know, I'm curious to hear your views as well. But yeah.
Great. I think before we move on to the next question, I think all of these are really great tips. And drawing from my own experience, in an educational experience as an engineer, I have to experiment and fail all the time. And I feel like kids nowadays cannot stay in the bubble. And we should try to give them more chances to try and fail. So I remember during one of the first contest the competition that we held last year, I think a third of the kids cried after hearing the award ceremony because there's only 3 winners, right? Yeah, I mean it was the saddest thing in their life, devastating. But after the experience, a lot of parents came up to us and say it's actually a good experience for them to experience failure, know how to even express their emotions. It's a good starting point. So I think as educators or as parents, we must be very careful that we cannot protect them too much, treat them like adults, and leave them room to try and fail. So this will lead us to the next question because as we know, the local Asian education style is very getting the right answer, getting A's. If you get a B+, it's failure, right? So in today's world of very hyper connectivity, so we need more international perspective and cultural understanding. That's why overseas education has a very big rising demand. So actually, according to a very recent HSBC survey, about half of the parents who already consider sending their kids overseas, they will start very early. They want to consider overseas studies since primary school or even lower secondary. Yes, over 50%. Right, so I have this question for Crystal and Greg. So will you send your kids to study overseas? And what specific, if you will, what specific opportunities are you looking for your kids?
I hope to have, so I think financial resources aside, I want to empower them to do whatever it is they take an interest in. So speaking from personal experience, and I think obviously I was very fortunate to be able to go to the schools that I wanted to go to, and we were able to afford going to those schools. But my sister, for example, stayed in Hong Kong. She did not go away until university. Myself, I, and my 3 brothers all went to boarding school voluntarily. So it wasn't like we had to follow a certain path. And I think, again, for the child to be able to make that decision rather than it to be forced upon them is ultimately the most important thing. I think, yes, the exposure is really imported, but to be honest, I don't know which exposure will be imported 10 years from now. Maybe they go to boarding school in like Sichuan, or maybe they go to boarding school in the US or the UK or New Zealand trying to run away from the world or something. I don't know. So I just think it's a broad set of outcomes right now. And who knows, like maybe by the time our kids are old enough to go to university, the concept of university has really, really transformed. I think people keep on saying this and then nothing really changes. Everyone, acceptance rates just go down. Everyone freaks out every year at the same time. We just kind of stick to the norm. Another thing someone told me is when you consider a university that is expensive versus less expensive for whatever reason, you need to actually, and his rationale for sending his kids, or trying to send his kids to the best universities, because that was like a very, very central, important thing to him, was that you think about a Yale or a Harvard or one of these top schools, and the amount, and he's a finance guy, and he said, just think of the amount of investment that has been put into those schools over the last 300 years. And that your kid is benefiting from that compounding of investment over the last 300 years. So he said in that context, the school fee is actually very, very, very reasonable, and you should fight to get your kid into the school because he or she will just have access to a lot more resources than a less well-resourced school. So that's an interesting philosophy that I'm still trying to digest, but I wanted to share with everyone. Yeah. Which actually means, yes, there are many, many schools that have dumped a lot of resources that your kids can benefit from the compounding of.
Not that sophisticated. I just said when I discussed with my husband, we consider, of course, it's the character of the kids. So we have 3 kids, the eldest one is 12. Originally, we planned to send her to boarding school at the age of 13, but upon the current geographic tension, we feel maybe unsafe for her to be outside at the moment. So we defer the plan. We also consider some boarding school may not be in UK, but some affiliated school in Japan, in Thailand, for example. So we are considering alternative to see the location, whether it's safe or not. So I think character is the key consideration for us.
So what are the other factors that you would think about when you're planning your kids' education? As for cash and admins, because we have the finances, we have the kids' characters, we have the kids' age, we have the curriculum and the education system. So what is the most important to you, and what are the tips that you would give to the parents here?
I think advising kids on going abroad sometimes, whether they actually know what they want to do is one of the consideration, especially when you consider college, right? So the biggest difference between US and UK or Hong Kong, for that matter, is you really need to know what you want to specialize in. Again, it's about specialization. If you know you want to be a lawyer, then that's great. But if you don't, like when I went to a local school in Hong Kong, and then I actually went to Yale for college, and at that point I didn't really know what I wanted to study. So having that, but I was forced to like do science, like in a local school for, well, not forced, but there was like, I guess there was a concept that, like if you're in the science stream, you are the smarter kid. So most of the kids would try to get into the science class. But actually, there are a lot of arts classes I actually wanted to explore. So when I went to Yale, it was eye-opening for me, because the first year I got to take classes in psychology and astronomy, stuff that I've never taken before. And even though when I graduated with like an economics degree, I was still kind of wondering, is that really what I want to do? I guess like I wasn't as fortunate to have that smart moment early on, and it didn't come until until later on. So I think for kids who don't know what they want yet, a more liberal curriculum that allows them to explore maybe what they want to consider. So yeah, so that's I think one consideration.
Yeah, I definitely think curriculum is an important one. Also depends the type of school that you have been, studying here and where that may best translate later. Although I think with IB and some of the broader curriculums, they can go across geographies. I think what's also important is the readiness of the child and sort of the nature of the overseas experience that you're looking for. Some kids may not be ready to go at a boarding school level, but they may be ready by college time. And you also don't have to get overseas experience for a multi-year period. You could do some of these study tours or do summer camps in some of these universities to give them exposure, to also see if this is the right thing for them. There are different ways to kind of test out. So the other practical tip I would say is, depending on the type of passport that you hold, there may be financial advantages to going to certain places. So for example, European passports, some of the markets where that may actually afford you some of the higher education institutions at a fraction of the price than what you might pay. It is important to think about the child and the curriculum itself. I also was fortunate to study in the US in the liberal arts curriculum, where for the first year I didn't have to decide what my major was, and I was taking everything from philosophy to art, and ended up in econ and ended up working in finance. But I think when you're just trying to figure out, to the point of what I was mentioning earlier, right, you're thinking about how to think, thinking about how you want to problem solve, and what you want to, the impact you want to have on the world, and the types of issues you want to work towards. It's really important to be getting a variety of perspectives, and so I think that needs to play a factor as well as you think about where your child goes and then the type of system that they're in.
So I hear from all of us, we're all very lucky, right? Very open-minded. We talk about Sichuan, we talk about Thailand, UK, US, everywhere in the world. And I really resonated with what Tash said, right? We can try out, short-term camps, which you can expose your kids to different places where they can, choose cultures that they resonate more into and they feel more comfortable. So we did host a tour to University of Cambridge last year, which Agnes' son has attended as well. He amazed me so much because he's only 6 years old, and during lunchtime he went up to the professor, a chemistry professor, offered him French fries and asked him tons of questions. And I remember when I was young, I'm so shy that even talking to waiters or random people on the street, I wouldn't have the guts to do that. So it was a good experience, and also drawing from a very memorable story from the tour last year was there was this school, a girl who was 8 years old, and she went to a local school. She's always very not confident about her English speaking level. She's just very shy and not confident. And during one of the final presentation to a Cambridge professor, what she did was she performed a magic trick. And we were kind of appalled, what are you doing? Why are you performing a magic trick in front of a chemistry professor? So she was doing this trick that a coin will go through a paper, and she wants to tell us that this seemed impossible, but after going to this 8-day tour, going to Cambridge seems like a possible route for her, and she wants to go to Cambridge in 10 years, right? So short-term kind of abroad experiences like that could really plant a seed and be more financially viable for parents to kind of pick somewhere to go for your kids. So I think this will lead to our next session, which is about the material stuff.
Yeah, so I think that preparing for the expenses of going abroad is something, okay, so for some people, the planning is really, really important. Depending on your sort of demographic, it may be just that, yes, you can afford it, but if you plan earlier, it will be much, much less painful as well. And it's good to know sort of what you're getting into, and the earlier you start, the better. Is a very, very good principle. So life does get more expensive, and planning is important. This year is a visual representation of different goods and services from the year 2000 to today. College tuition and fees are only trumped by hospital services. And surprisingly, 23 years from 2000 until 2023, 2024, going up 175% is only an inflation rate of like 4.5% per year. But that is how effective compounding is. It's extremely effective. Okay. You'll be glad to know that TVs are much cheaper than they were in the year 2000. Okay, next slide. So, university in the US in 2016 was 41,000. Today it's about 60,000. That's followed by the UK. I was actually really surprised by this when doing research because I always thought the UK was way cheaper than the US for school, but it's caught up big time. I saw another study where it said that a year at Cambridge, after all expenditures, is about $80,000 today. So, really gone up. Australia, a bit less expensive. Canada, still 36,000 a year, increasing at a 5% annualized rate. So this again is pretty serious and something worth considering. Now, okay, this is a bit small on the side. The left-hand side is the top 15 most expensive schools in the US and the annual cost of attendance. So that includes some room and board and things like that. This was done for the 2022 year. University of Chicago and Northwestern, both in Chicago. I don't know why they're the two most expensive schools, but they topped the list at 84 and 83,000, followed by UPenn, where I went to my undergrad at 83,000, Columbia, Brown, etc., and going down the list. With 2 round-trip tickets to Hong Kong, if you still live in Hong Kong, you should expect $90,000 per year for the US top school education. Well, I wouldn't say top, most expensive schools education. I don't think the variation is that big on the expenditure side. So Dartmouth at number 15 is at 81,000, and I don't think the list changes that much underneath. So we created this calculator for everyone to try out. Okay, it's on our website. It's publicly available to anybody. If you scan this QR code, we call it the investment plan calculator. You can calculate on the fly, and I'm going to show you guys an example of this in a second, but you can calculate on the fly what university will cost and how you can plan towards it. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of work here. So I'm going to click on the calculator. Anyone that wants to scan it, scanned it. I'll wait one more second so you can follow along. It's not that easy to find on our website. Our website's generally just too busy. So please scan the QR so you can follow. I'll bring it up later. Okay. You'll land on this page. It's mobile responsive. You can see the page here. And it's called an investment plan calculator. It starts by understanding your future spending need of a single goal. On the right-hand side, or if you scroll down on your mobile device, you'll find the fields that we need to calculate a plan. Okay, so try to follow. I'll try to go pretty slow here, but I am planning for an annual cash flow, not a lump sum amount, of $90,000 for my first child, which will need this cash flow in 2034. And university tends to be about 4 years, so I'll expect that they need to do this for 4 years. Because college is expensive, rather than the generally accepted long-term inflation rate, I'm going to apply an expected inflation rate of 5%. This means that in 2034, what is $90,000 today will be sorry, I'll scroll down so you guys can see the first output here. What is $90,000 today will be $143,000 in 2034, or $166,000 in her 4th year of university. Okay? That means my total aggregate spending is $620,000. $90,000 a year in today's money, $620,000 out of your bank account over 4 years, starting 10 years from now. Okay? This is US dollars as well, by the way. Okay, scrolling down, I expect my investment portfolio to generate an annualized return of, depending on your risk tolerance, of course, let's say 7% is what's normally is what's reasonable. And we actually guide you. So if you want a understanding of what a reasonable expected return looks like, you can click on the info bubble and read and figure out where you should be placed on that spectrum for an expected return. Okay. I'm going to start saving towards this goal in May of 2024, which is this month. What this means is to meet my spending need, and given this expected return of 7%, I will need a monthly investment of $3,400 per month, US dollars, or an initial investment, so one-time investment right now, of $292,000. So actually, when you put it like at $3,442 a month, that sounds quite palatable versus $292,000 today. And what you can say is, okay, I'm able to make an initial investment of, let's call it $100,000. Okay, great. So if I make an initial investment of $100,000, I will need to top up and continuously invest $2,260 per month. So this is a very, very helpful planning tool. You could change this up and say, you know what, I'm only able to make, I can make an initial investment of only $50,000 and will immediately spit out what that does to your aggregate spending need, the monthly investment you require. You can also say, you know what, I'm going to be super aggressive, I'm going to target a 9% annualized return. And these numbers, I have to recalculate here. And these numbers will recalculate for what I need to achieve the goal. Yeah, so my total investment has gone down to now $238,000 instead of the previous number. Okay, so I hope this tool is really helpful in helping you plan for your child's education. Sometimes, and we did this, we did some testing internally and people were getting confused by this tool. You need to do it for every single kid. Okay. Just so you know. One kid won't cover all the kids. So, if you have 3 kids, you gotta do it 3 times.
Yes, sir.
So here, I have Amelia's University. I assumed, okay, in the example just now, I assumed an inflation rate of 5. Here I assumed an inflation rate of 4%. This is more like what it will look like. 7% annualized return with volatility, 100K initially, 2K a month, and going up to a peak value of 500,000, but you don't take all the money out at once. You continue to invest while you're withdrawing as well. So spending down over those 4 years at 130,000 until 147,000 in that 4th year. So you can play around with this very easily. Because we do have 3 kids, I need to do it 3 times. And with each kid, I can actually, because I have a bit more duration, which is what we call duration in investing, I can take on a bit more risk. I can take on illiquidity, so I can go into private markets, hedge fund exposure, etc., if I have a bit more duration towards that goal as well. And remember from the earlier slides of that core sort of that investment advisory framework I showed, These are what we would consider to be core goals. And they would feed into the core goals of your overall portfolio. These 3 individual goals, because they have different durations, I don't have triplets. If you have triplets, they'd all be the same, okay? But I don't have triplets, they were born in different years. Individual core goals with their own risk return parameters, their own independent portfolios, and their own initial and monthly investments. So more kids, yes, probably more expensive. And that, I hope, is a really good way to sort of frame how you need to be thinking about planning for your child's education and other future liabilities you might have. Questions?
Everyone's in shock right now.
Yeah, everyone. Or you can expect college to be displaced by AI and not worry about it. Just go on vacation instead. Yeah, that's fine.
Start working early, get freelance jobs.
No, cool. Okay. No, we're opening up the floor. We can ask questions to any of us. Or, yeah. Anybody? Or we can wrap up and have drinks.
Can we proceed to the first monkey graduate?
Thank you, sorry. I have one. I'm no expenses. She's already quite. I mean, she's very focused. We met her very early on, so she focused. She takes the volley and soccer. So she's doing
Ballet and soccer. Cool.
Oh, great combination.
Yeah. Very.
Very
a little
good.
bit back off. Let her run her own thing.
She must have very good foot coordination.
Big muscle and small muscle. Right?
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. We have a little lucky draw for everybody.
So, like,
Given that kids' education is so costly, we decided to give out free summer camp so that you can save a little bit and invest in Endowus and then compound it up.
But if you win the lucky draw and don't have a child, you should maybe return the.
Yeah, we can draw for another
we should
lucky participant.
draw again. Yeah, we don't want to.
Right.
Don't try to go and sell the free summer camp.
Making money. Right, so everyone here, we are offering a free trial class. So if you're interested to enroll your kids into a program, please scan this QR code, and if you sign up today, you will get a free trial class in our Wan Chai Center. It's very close to here. It's in 90 Jeffrey Road. Very convenient, so please sign up. And for Lucky Draw, we have 3 prizes. The first prize is a completely for free summer camp, which costs $3,300. Good initial investment. And then
It's 1 month of saving for college.
well, 1 month, yeah. still, it counts. Second prize is $800 off for our summer camp, so it's like 33% off. And the third prize is we actually host birthday parties for kids. I know that kids nowadays are so demanding, they want different activities every single year, right? So we do host birthday parties as well, so it's a $500 off for our science-themed birthday party with volcanoes, dinosaurs, things that kids love. So why don't we move on to our lucky draw right now? So is there like a system that we can
Yes,
do?
there is.
Yeah. So each of you should have this little ticket with a number on it. Anyone doesn't have a ticket? Everyone has a ticket?
maybe for when we enter the building?
Yeah, when you enter the building, you have this little ticket. Yes, there you go. Okay. So why don't we?
Participate in your draw and check our tickets.
Sure. Yeah. You're eligible as well. Okay, so should we start with our third prize first, Matilda? So how do you work on this? Do we just 40? Okay, there you go. All right. Oh, there's this.
here, over here.
Oh, yay! All right, congratulations. Congratulations. There you go. We have this. Yeah, $500 off to our birthday party section. Let's take a look. Alright. How old is your kid? Alright, next, Greg, do you wanna
Spin again.
yes, spin again? Ooh, 37. Cool. Alright. Okay, let's do it again then. Number 3, the early comers. Okay, we host summer camps this year in Wanchai, Taikou, and in Kowloon. Yeah. Oh, you also Cambridge alumni. Which college do you go to? Oh, I went to Maudlin. Congrats.
Great.
Okay, and first prize. Number 30.
Number 30.
Number 30.
If you don't claim it.
If you don't claim it, Grant might take it. For one of your kids only though. Yeah, you can't share.
Number 30. No?
No? Okay.
Last chance, number 30. 3, 2, 1. Okay, too bad.
You're not rigged it. Yeah, it's not rigged. It's not rigged. Yeah, it might be rigged by Greg. Okay.
Thank you, Sarah. Really nice gifts. Okay, and then finally, just if you're not yet an Endowus client, we have a code for you tonight. This is $300 off your Endowus fee when you sign up for an Endowus account today or tomorrow. So the code expires tomorrow night. Use this QR code and sign up. We have human advisors if you want to speak to a human. If you don't, a lot of it is self-serve. Onboarding is end-to-end online. Or again, if you want to do it face-to-face, we offer that service too, for more of a white glove onboarding service as well. Today, Endowus works with over 50 global fund managers. We're the lowest cost access to over 200 strategies available in Hong Kong, and that's everything from money market funds to public equities, fixed income, hedge funds, private equity, private credit, etc. So lots to explore on the platform. $300 off your fee when you sign up today or tomorrow with this special code. Okay, cool. Thank you everyone, and that ends our session today, and we hope you enjoyed